Hello, hello, hello. Welcome again to what we're going to call a special edition, although you're going to get it every week. That West Virginia has a game, that
Always
is.
special.
Yeah, but it's going to be a special edition of Musings from the Mountains. We're going to do a little game preview, kind of deep dive a little bit into what James Madison's going to do, what West Virginia plans to do, and, take some of your questions, because you had so much fun with that last time. Basics of the game here. West Virginia's playing James Madison. We all know that by now. Very, very good FCS team. Probably one of the top two, if not, probably second. I would say besides North Dakota State.
Definitely one of the top teams in FCS.
Yeah, one of the quality FCS programs. They've taken quite a few quality transfers. I think they have 7 from Division I teams, FBS level teams on their roster. Deep team. They returned 20 of 22 starters. Pretty loaded up and down. They got a new coach with West Virginia ties. Makes for an interesting storyline with Kurt Signetti coming home, in a sense, to coach his first game at James Madison. But this is going to be an interesting game for several reasons. I think that you look at it on paper, James Madison wants to run the football, stop the run. West Virginia wants to do the same thing. Whichever team is going to be able to do that, I think, is probably going to...
Like I said, it's definitely an interesting matchup in the sense that you've got 2 new head coaches making their debut, and then, like I said, usually when you schedule an FCS program, a lot of people, they stereotype as, that team will have no problem. I mean, JMU is no slouch at all. I think they're definitely going to challenge West Virginia. They'll definitely be a challenge for the Mountaineers on Saturday. It's going to be definitely an interesting match, just considering all the experience they have returning this year.
Yeah, they're a perennial playoff team at the FCS level. West Virginia is putting a couple streaks on the line. They're 19-0 against FCS programs, which I think you would expect in a sense, but James Madison's no typical FCS program. They've had a couple wins against FBS programs over the last couple years.
Yeah, overall, they're just 6-21 against FBS programs, but you mentioned within the past 4 years, they've managed to pull out 2 wins over FBS programs, one against SMU, one against East Carolina. They gave NC State a run for their money last year. Definitely going to be a challenge.
Yeah, and West Virginia fans remember that game that James Madison beat Virginia Tech. You didn't forget that, did you, in 2010? So they have a history of going in and beating some quality opponents. For West Virginia in this game, as I mentioned, I think it starts up front. The offensive line has got to show what it has, in a sense. We've gotten to the point now where talk isn't going to do much. You got to be able to show it on the field, and West Virginia is going to be up against a pretty good FCS level defensive line. They probably have 1, if not 2 guys that are going to be drafted in April. So I think that West Virginia is going to be challenged on the edge. They're going to have to put those tackles out there. I mean, I think you're fine with Colton McKivitz. Obviously, you're going to learn a little bit about Kelby Wickline, but you're going to be put into some situations that are challenging. The front 7 for James Madison is very good. They've got some quality players, and the back end, they got back arguably one of their best players in Rashad Robinson, who comes back after missing turf toe all of last year. So I think defensively, it's going to be interesting to see how West Virginia matches up. Obviously, one of the advantages they'll have is they've got more players. That's just simple, basic fundamentals of FBS to FCS level. Now, I think the key for West Virginia is going to be able to kind of keep them off balance. They've got to be able to not necessarily go fast to go fast, but you can't let that defense rest. Top 11, great unit. It's when you get run into trouble when it comes with the replacements.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not saying they don't have quality backups. I'm saying over the course of a game, you'll notice the difference.
And we're going to see rotations. I mean, no matter what. I mean, we are going to see freshmen on the field for West Virginia in the secondary, especially with Troy Fortune definitely going to play. Tyke Smith at safety. Could see Kerry Martin in there. Tay Mayo. And then especially up front with the offensive line, you're going to see some rotations too. Matt Moore feels comfortable with about 7 guys, so it's definitely going to be interesting to see where exactly they rotate some of these guys and when the situation. We do know that they want to do it earlier as opposed to later. So that's going to be interesting to see just who exactly rotates in and how they fit in the picture during the game.
Yeah, and as I mentioned, James Madison's experienced on offense too. They returned a lot of guys from last year's offensive line. I think it's 4 or 5. Their quarterback's back after starting all 13 games. Ben DiNucci from Pitt. You might remember him. He played some at Pitt while he was there. Played all 13 games for the Dukes last year. Had kind of a quarterback battle for James Madison in fall camp and through the spring, kind of like West Virginia did. You assumed who would be the starter. I mean, obviously he had already started all 13 games the year before, but he won that battle, as you would expect, made the most of that, and now they're kind of riding into Morgantown feeling pretty good about their rushing attack. They've got some quality tight ends. They've got some wide receivers they can use in a variety of ways. But this team's going to try to run the football. West Virginia's been watching tape from what happened at Elon, tape what happened at Charlotte, to get an idea of what they're going to do. They're going to try to run the football. They're going to use the screen game. They want to control the ball. They want to try to keep their defense out of those situations that we talked about earlier. You don't want to have to be putting stress on your defense. So they're going to be playing hand in hand with each other. I think that's going to be important for West Virginia. They've got to stop the run, and when they do bring pressure, they've got to get home.
I agree with you there. I mean, I feel like one of the biggest keys for West Virginia, you got such a talented offensive backfield. We got those 3 running backs, Kenny McCoy, Martell Pettaway, Alex Seinfeld, Letty Brown. You got to get those guys going. You got to get the run game going. I mean, that's going to be critical for success, not only this game, but just for the rest of the season. Now, we talked about the offensive line, doing a little shuffling a little bit. Josh Sills playing center now. Chase Barrett and John Hughes, a JUCO transfer, will be rotating in at right guard. Question is, how are those guys gonna react to what James Madison brings? I mean, there's gonna be a lot of unknowns in this game.
There always is. That's what the opener's about.
I thought one thing that you kind of touched on already, I think in the last Musings from the Mountains, was Matt Moore said, I mean, a lot of these, especially some of the offensive linemen, they're gonna be on an island. They're gonna have to go one-on-one with these guys, and you're gonna get beat. It's how you react to getting beat, and the same goes for playing these freshmen, playing these newcomers. That you're going to make mistakes, but it's how you react to that and how you adjust.
I think that when you look at this game on paper, which you never should do, games aren't won on paper, but you look at it on paper, West Virginia is probably the deeper, more talented team. James Madison is a talented team with experience. It's the age-old
That's a good way of putting it.
Youth versus experience. And sometimes talent wins out, sometimes the experience wins out. I think that's going to be the interesting dynamic. How do some of these players for West Virginia respond that have never been in this situation before? Or even ones that have marginally at other schools.
Because they're going to get the opportunity.
Oh, yeah, they're going to have to. I mean, West Virginia's going to have to depend on guys that have not played a lot of college football. And while it looks good in practice sometimes, that doesn't necessarily mean it's going to translate to the game. I think that's one of the bigger storylines. Special teams as well. That's always key. If you've ever read my game previews on the site, that's a check mark every week. You got to win special teams, and I do think West Virginia feels better about where they are now, especially from the spring with the punting situation with Josh Groden handling that. I think it's exciting. I think obviously everybody's excited for the opener. It's a new era. So excited to see some of the things really kind of take the bibs off in a sense. West Virginia didn't show us much in the spring. They didn't show us much offensively. Didn't show us much defensively.
Especially in the spring game. Yeah. And defensive coordinator Vic Coney made a point in saying that, is that they didn't show a lot in the spring
Why
game.
would they?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I mean, I think that now we're going to get to really see the training wheels come off and see what this defense looks like, see what this offense looks like. So it's exciting. Now, as we did a couple episodes ago, we're going to get to some of your questions. But these are specifically for the game. You ask them, we're going to answer them.
All right, you ready?
All right, let's go.
So first question has to deal with tight end Giovanni Haskins. Do you think Haskins will see the field against JMU now that he is medically cleared?
I do. I think that if he was not going to see the field, if it was a guarantee that he was going to set out due to some of the issues he had disciplinary earlier in camp, I think Neil would have made an announcement by now. Now, you can have the silent set out. If you've followed the WV basketball program, Bob Huggins has done that several times. Yeah. But I think he's going to play. Do I think he's going to start? No. I do think the job is going to be Mike O'Loughlin's to start. I would be very surprised if maybe even a half, but in the third quarter at some point, at the latest, you don't see Giovanni Haskins.
And we're going to stay on the offensive side of the ball right here. This one has to deal with the wide receiver group. How much of an impact or playing time could Campbell get this weekend? I'm assuming they're talking about George Campbell, the Florida State graduate transfer.
Yeah, I think he's playing for sure. He's in the 2 deep on one of the outside wide receiver spots. He brings some things that West Virginia didn't have in the spring. He's big, he's tall, he's fast. He's a 5-star recruit, guys. I know not always are the rankings perfect, but there's a reason Alabama and Clemson are successful every year. They recruit a lot of these guys. It reminds me a lot of Kenny Bigelow. Now, I'm not going to say he ends up having Kenny Bigelow's type of season, but a guy that's been almost forgotten because he's dealt with injuries his whole career is going to be able to step in and really have a chance. This is his chance to rewrite his career, and I do think he plays quite a bit.
And West Virginia will be playing a lot of wide receivers this Saturday. Matt Moore said he expects up to 8 wide receivers to see the field come Saturday. So it's going to be interesting to see, like I said, when they, how often one plays or how they go about rotating and splitting snaps with those guys, as well as how they fit into the game plan. Now going to the defensive side of the ball, with Drayshawn Miller out this weekend, who do you think gets the most reps and could be the biggest impact at that position, which is the cornerback position?
Well, I think the two seniors obviously are going to play, but I don't think that's what you're asking. I don't think it's, Hakeem Bailey and Keith Washington are going to play. My pick for the guy that plays the most behind them is Nick Troy Fortune. I mean, he's been the guy that you keep hearing about, which is kind of surprising to me. I thought between the two, Tay Mayo would be the guy because he's more of a natural cover corner, but it's definitely been Nick Troy. I think that he's going to play, and not only is he going to play, I mean, they even alluded to it a little bit. He's challenging to start. Mm-hmm. So I think he's your guy.
Now, okay, this one deals with both sides of the ball. If you had to pick one player on offense and one on defense, who will stand out against the Dukes this weekend?
I think defensively, I'm just going to continue with the whole theme of the camp and go Josh Chandler. I think he's going to have a humongous year. The last time you heard coaches rave about a guy like this at every opportunity they had, even when not even asked, was David Long. Now, I'm not saying he's another David Long. Maybe I am saying he's another David Long, but I think that he's in for a big year, and I think that gets started this weekend. Offensively, I think you could pick a lot of different guys, but I think if West Virginia is going to win this football game, they need Austin Kendall to play well. Mm-hmm. I think that walking away, you're going to rely on your running backs. That's obvious. We've made that clear throughout this entire episode. But if Austin Kendall is able to be efficient, get the ball out of his hands, make the right decisions, and put West Virginia in position to win, I think that West Virginia wins this football game.
Totally agree with you about Chandler being the guy who may stand out on defense this game. I would go with, I know this is kind of almost like a cop-out here, but I'm going to go with the entire defensive line to see how much impact they can have. Obviously, I feel like they're going to be really aggressive, kind of take some pressure off, try to get to the quarter, push themselves into the quarterback side, try to take some pressure off of the defensive backfield for West Virginia since it's mostly a young group.
I think they got to play well. Yeah. I agree with you there.
They got to play well. Offensively, I mean, you could go either way. You could go running backs. I mean, it's definitely critical for a guy like Kenny McCoy.
Take the center. You're a former center. Take it.
Former center.
I know you're thinking about that.
Yeah. Offensive line in general, but Josh Sills to see how he, like I say, just made the move to center just a couple of weeks ago. So far, Matt Moore knocked on wood, said he's been consistent with his snaps. It's allowed him, this move has allowed him to become a better leader. His pad level's been great, study habits, communication. So I'm really going to be keen on him to see, just what kind of impact he has and how much he's adjusting to the center position.
You always like offensive linemen taking offensive linemen.
Always, you got to show the big ugly some love. So next question here: who do you expect to lead the team in receptions and carries?
See, when I got this question asked, Patrick, is this for the season or for the game? We're going to say for the game, because I'm sure this might get asked every week at this point.
Fair question.
Carries, I think it's clearly going to be Kennedy McCoy. I thought at one time that this was going to be more of a mix and match type deal. I think just based on the coach's comments, based off what you've heard from players, Kennedy's the guy right now, and the other guys are kind of working for the snaps behind him. That doesn't mean they're not going to play. I just think he's by far in the lead. Comes to receptions, I'm torn between two players. I like the intrigue of Sean Ryan. I think they've talked him up a lot from what I saw. He looks good. But I'm going to go with the safe bet. I'm going to go with TJ Simmons. Yeah, he's been there. He already has a pretty good connection with Austin Kendall. You saw it in the spring game. I think that he's your reliable guy. And the fact that he's been able to move back inside, a place he's real comfortable with, I could see them designing quite a few plays just to get him some quick hitters to get Austin Kendall going, as I mentioned before.
And I agree with you, TJ Simmons there. Obviously, West Virginia's most experienced wide receiver returning. I feel like if he's your most experienced guy, you got to give him the ball. So I feel like definitely he's a great candidate to lead the team in receptions on Saturday. Also, I can also see Sean Ryan, but another guy I could possibly see is kind of like a dark horse candidate for this is Sam James.
Yeah.
You never know right there. But
especially if they take some of those deep shots.
Definitely. Next question here is, trying to find the next question here. How talented is this team on paper versus West Virginia's last four teams?
See, that's a difficult question to answer, and I think that's why you ask it, whoever that was that asked it. I think that West Virginia on paper has a lot of talent. It's the fact it's inexperienced. Do I think it has as much talent as last year? No, I don't. I don't on paper. I think that anytime you have a team that puts 5 to 6 guys into the pros, you got a pretty talented team. Is it on par for the year before? Probably. I mean, I know it's a lot of the same players, but they were unproven at the time. in a lot of the same ways we're talking about. Guys like Gary Jennings, David Sills had not emerged yet.
Could you see maybe the 2016 team as well? Maybe?
Yeah, I think that's a fair comparison. I mean, that team had more experience, but they relied on their running backs. I think if Austin Kendall can be what Skylar Howard was that year,
which is incorporated into the run game.
Yeah, West Virginia is a sneaky play.
Next question here is, do you see West Virginia trying to pound the football in the run game early? I think you got to run the football. I think that anyone that knows that, Neil Brown's made it no secret, strength of the offense. I think everybody has been able to see that if you look at this roster. They're going to run the football. I don't think they're going to run it just to run it. I think if it's not there, if James Madison's really selling out to stop the run, they're going to take some deep shots. There's a reason they went to go get these outside vertical guys that can stretch the field. But I do think they are going to try to run the football. That's going to be the bread and butter of this team. At the start of the season, that might further evolve, but that's going to be the play. Now, one of the most important questions here.
Oh, this one sounds critical.
Keenan, will we be wearing a plaid button-down shirt?
How many of these shows have you watched? All right, 15. This is the 15th episode. I've wore a plaid shirt to 13 of them. I'm definitely not wearing a hoodie, so yes, bank on it. It'll be long sleeve though, and I'll be wearing blue jeans.
Now, one of the final questions here, I think this is the final question, is predicting Austin Kendall's stat line.
Oh, man, that's tough. I play a lot of fantasy football, so I'll throw out a couple numbers. 24 for 35, 221 yards, 2 touchdowns, and a pick.
Well, how many yards did you say?
225, I think.
225. That's fair. I would say definitely less than 250. I would say I think he completes around anywhere in the 20 to 25 range with a couple of touchdowns. So.
There you go. We're pretty much on the same page. I think you copied my answer. Now the part you've all been waiting for, I hope. If you're stuck around with us, we appreciate it. We're going to do this every week. We are going to do this every week. We're excited about it. Some extenuating circumstances caused our shifting. If you've noticed, we're outside. But we'll be back in the studio next week. I think that, Patrick, when you look at this game, it's an FCS team versus an FBS team. You feel like you know how this should end. It doesn't always end this way. What do you got, man? What's your prediction for this game?
I got West Virginia 28-21. I mean, I just feel like as of now, I really feel like it's going to be a close one. Like I said, JMU is no pushover. They have the experience returning. I know you can argue that there's a gap in talent between FCS team and this West Virginia team, but I really feel like, as I said, with all that experience returning, JMU will definitely give West Virginia a run for its money. For West Virginia, I mean, I know I could be completely wrong, but I feel like for West Virginia, for me, it's just I really want to see how some of those unknowns play out, and for me, that's the offensive line, that's the wide receivers, definitely how they come out with the defensive secondary. So I really feel like West Virginia definitely has the talent. I feel like they're definitely going to pull it off, but JMU is definitely going to give them a run for its money.
And I agree with you, Pat. I do think West Virginia is going to win this game. I think it is going to be a close game for at least a half. I don't think West Virginia runs away with it. I don't think this is 2012 West Virginia James Madison. But I do think West Virginia is going to be in for a fight. This is a young team. You're going to find out a lot about it. And I think that you're going to find out it's a resilient bunch. And I have West Virginia winning this game 31-17.
They're definitely ready to play.
Yeah, I think that the thing that I took away from Neil is they're young, yes, but that can sometimes be used as an advantage. And I do think that this is going to be a game that you're at home, a new era, a sellout crowd. West Virginia's never lost to an FCS team. It's not going to happen today. Forget about it. I think they win this game. A close one, but they're going to win it. Once again, thanks for tuning in. We enjoy having you. Feel free to stop back by anytime. We'll have one after the game. We're going to try to regularly do one after the game and have a couple throughout the week and continue to grow this thing. This is your last chance, guys. You're not going to hear me say this again because it's not going to be around anymore. Our promo, for any of you out there that are listening to this, you're going to love our written content. We have a partnership with Pro Football Focus, getting to advanced statistics. We do a lot of our own looks at deep diving into statistics, what happened, the story. Get all that, guys. 15 months of it. That takes you through all of this season, all of basketball season, all of recruiting, and almost all of next football season. If you sign up now, 15 months, guys, for $75. That's a great deal. That's $25.
Tremendous deal.
That's $25 off the normal cost for an annual. And then we're going to give you a $75 gift card to get gear. The deal ends Saturday, as I said. If you're going to take advantage of it, do it now. If not, thank you for tuning in again. If you're watching this, hit subscribe if you haven't already. This has been another episode of Musings of the Mountains, and next time we talk, we'll have a football record.